Whiskey time here with Rauta, and this time it's a recap video. Yes, finally back from Germany a few days ago, I'm filming this, and man, I gotta tell you, it was an interesting trip, and now I'm gonna tell you some news about it, why you should have been there, what was my experience for the first time in Germany for so many years doing a festival, and this time not some Wacken, which I truly enjoyed back in the days for a few times, but never been to the real kind of say underground extreme metal festival before this one. And this one is Acherontic Arts IV, done, organized, everything set up by Van Records from Germany, and this is me and my cameraman Arto. We were invited as special guests, which I'm very thankful, by the way. All the thank yous go to the label people who were really kind, helpful, and welcoming for us, to invite us there. I never take it as granted. Hospitality is a fucking great thing, a great value, quality in human beings when that is, but never take it for granted. Never know how people are gonna treat you when you go different places and all that stuff, but I can pretty much say we were treated almost like royalty right there. Food, drinks, bands, interviews, everything was nicely set up, and of course it was very cool to meet some new people, so cheers to Germany, even though this is Scotch whiskey, but alright, let's start talking about Acherontic Arts Festival 4 took place in 11th and 12th of April 2025 in a city called Oberhausen, which is about 25 minutes away from Düsseldorf, so very easy to access. So first I'm gonna pretty much sum it up, because this is more like a talking head video. I don't have any cool footage and all that stuff. I mean, I took some drone videos around the area, even Düsseldorf, even Oberhausen and all that stuff, but I decided to keep my, vacation mode stuff in a separate video, because otherwise this would be some 30 minutes and weird. So let's focus on the whole stuff here. But first I want to, first and foremost tell how we got there. So obviously we, coming from Finland, we took the planes from Helsinki to Düsseldorf. Why Düsseldorf? Because, that's pretty much the biggest city right there, just as a neighborhood to Oberhausen. And as you probably know, even if you're a frequent visitor, as going to different places, different countries and all that stuff, you pretty much know that sometimes things look very different when you're staring at the maps and finding routes and using guides and all that stuff versus reality. Once again, this was very much the truth. I'm not exactly the stressful kind of a traveler, but obviously when I check out, okay, here is our hotel in Düsseldorf, and then we have to go to the Oberhausen, how these things are gonna operate, do we find the right train and all that stuff. Nothing to worry really. Going to Oberhausen from Düsseldorf was super easy. You just take the train from Düsseldorf main train station, and about 25 minutes later you are in the very core of Oberhausen, where this festival took place. So getting there was super easy, even if coming outside of Germany. And as if things are going as they hopefully are, maybe in a couple of years there will be a next Acherontic Arts Festival. I was told this is not going to be an annual event, which means there is not likely to be a 2026 event, but what do I know? I'm not a seer or any kind of people of knowledge, or person of knowledge for that matter. Anyway, so in Oberhausen, obviously we took a little bit of a look at the Google Maps, figuring out where should we go next. Now, obviously, there are a couple of choices to do that. You can be like a tourist and walk. This took about maybe 20 minutes to reach the venue, or then you can be the rich man and take the local taxi, Uber, whatever you have there in use. Now, Oberhausen is not that big of a city, so I don't know if some kind of a tourist time is really needed there in case you're going, but who knows? Depends what you want. Düsseldorf is probably the place for tourism and sightseeing and all that stuff, and Oberhausen is the place where you go to see the actual bands. So this one took place in Turbinenhalle, which you can pretty much figure out means turbine hall. So it's like basically this big ass factory building, of sorts anyway, which is now used in a different ways. As such, there are plenty of things happening in the building, and first and foremost we were like looking for the right door, and then we were guided to the right place by the helpful people right there who were just giving like, okay, you're a special guest, here are your wristbands, and now just wait for things to happen. And obviously I was very surprised by the hospitality of the people right there. Everybody was super helpful, answering our stupid questions like where we should be and who we should talk to and all that stuff when doing for interviews. And like magic, things actually happened very nice when it comes to doing interviews and getting things done. So I'm, like I said, very thankful to people right here. Now, obviously, as you can see, the whole lineup is built about Van Records bands, and including Territory Possessions sub-label, which is then again operated from Norway. But things are what they are. So 2 labels, sub-label and main label, they're operating hand in hand here. And these are the bands in question. You might know most of them through the logos, but of course there are some, well, maybe not some obvious ones from the logos. And for me it was very exciting, because a lot of these bands are something that I never got to see in Finland, even haven't seen most of them in Norway, where you can see a little bit different than bands in Finland. But I mean, one of the fantastic things when you travel to different festivals in different places is that you get to see a lot of different bands which are maybe not that much available locally. And it's nothing to do with politics. I mean, this is not like, okay, you get to see these kind of bands at this fest and these, like, forget all that bullshit. This is just about black metal and death metal and other sorts of extreme metal. But sometimes bands do have different places where they go. Sometimes it's all about booking, certain promoters choose this and that kind of bands. Sometimes it's about like certain bands just don't go different countries and all that stuff. And obviously, different people have their own different tastes when it comes choosing and asking bands to play at their local festival. So like I said, there are certain bands I get to see in Finland, certain bands which are more likely to be seen in places like Norway, and then in this time in Germany, a lot of German bands playing it here. But there were also, of course, bands from other countries, including Hordem right from Norway, being the headliner for Friday, or Darvaza, which is technically speaking international band, including Italian and Norwegian lineup. But most of these bands operate around Germany. There are also this Omega Eternum, which is a French black metal band. So quite international European thing going on, with focus being on Germany. Now, obviously, we were there to do interviews. We just don't have the money to just travel for fun. I mean, unless it's spending our own money, but I keep my Rauta money separated from my personal stuff. And this is thanks to you, dear supporters, who are hopefully watching the video, because you have invested in Rauta in a way as a support. This is what you get, interviews from these festivals. And the ones we did was Hordem Rife from Norway, playing black metal and being the headliner here. Something that we already agreed to do a couple of years ago, but this is where it finally happened. And another band I was aiming for was Enstille, which unfortunately had to cancel their show, I guess due to illness, and was supposed to be the headlining band for Saturday. But I still got to do the interview, because the people were not, sick on Friday. Technically speaking, however, this Enstille interview means it was partially done with Morast, because these bands have the same vocalist. So technically speaking, we got like 5 bands through 4 interviews. The other bands we interviewed was Sulphur Aeon, an interesting band with kind of a blackened death metal thing with Lovecraftian themes, and the Ruins of Peverust, which also featured previous members from bands like Nagelfar and Secrets of the Moon. Then again, so does Enstille, so there is a lot of interesting overlapping. Darvaza unfortunately doesn't do video interviews. That was asked, in case you're wondering. And of course I was introduced to a lot of new people here, so it was very interesting for me to meet some people, including Omega Eternum guy for that matter, and get to pick their brains, joke, to make acquaintances and all that stuff. Like I said, lots of social networking in a way, meeting friends new and old, and of course doing these interviews. Now, what about the shows? Well, it would be great if I get to say, yeah, we saw all the shows, but that's more like never going to happen, because unfortunately sometimes interviews overlap with certain, gigs, which means sometimes we're doing interviews when certain bands are playing, and sometimes you just need to take a break. Why? Because we're old and ruined people. So, unfortunately, as fun as it would be, say, like, yeah, we saw all the bands, full sets and all that stuff, it was pretty much, we saw most of the bands. I think there were like 2 bands which I didn't see at all, and most of the bands seeing more or less big chunks of the gigs, but there were bands which I saw maybe like 2 songs per band. That's unfortunate, but it is what it is. What was very, very interesting for me personally to see at least a little bit of Nagelfar, because this was a special thing. The band is not doing a comeback. This was more like a one-off thing, more or less. So it was interesting to see at least that, because I mean, I used to listen to the band already more than 20 years ago, more like 25 years ago, I guess. So it was interesting finally to see it. Too bad I get into the end still, but at least then again, Morast as a new band for me was very, very captivating, very interesting band to see how they were performing. Whoredom Rife I've seen a few times before, always straight and powerful black metal presentation. So I was really happy to see them. Got to see, of course, Ruins of Beverast and Sulphur Aeon playing their respective sets, and what can I say? Good stuff, really. But maybe, because I always have to pick some favorite, that's the kind of a weird habit I have. And this is not to slander any of the bands. As much as I like bands like Morast or Whoredom Rife and so forth, Darvaza was the most captivating. There was some kind of a live energy which is almost like, tangible. There was some kind of a, how to say, more just than a passion, and passion takes you a long way. But the live energy was really, really great. I mean, of course, there are other bands which had that as well, but partially because of the music, partially because of the live energy, that would be probably my one choice if I get to choose the best. It's not like maybe the music is not necessarily the best. Maybe that would go, in my case, to Whoredom Rife. But I don't know. For example, like I said, Morast was totally unknown to me previously, and now I feel I should be really going for that one, because I like the live energy and the whole feeling of different individuals, during the set. So all in all, I was really, really happy, and I'm grateful for seeing bands that I have never seen before. Like I said, there are certain bands just don't go all the places you want to. So that alone, me seeing a huge amount of different bands for the first time, not just 1 or 2, meant a lot, and that was one of the biggest excuses for me, one of the biggest reasons, that is, to go to Germany with my cameraman Arto. And of course, I'm really happy about all the interviews we got to do, because these guys, everybody treated us with respect and friendliness, kindness, and being sane, interesting people. So what can I say? Part of the charm, part of why I want to do these Rauta trips and Rauta interviews is, of course, meeting these interesting people and get to pick their brains, and of course, present these interviews when they're finally edited and done to you. Because it's not about me, obviously, it's not about Arto, it's not about, the bands themselves, it's about you, dear audience. If it was only me talking to the bands, we wouldn't need a camera and microphones. But because the idea is to bring to you what these guys have to say, yeah, I'm super happy that we got to do that stuff. These guys had some interesting things to say, in my opinion. All bands are different, obviously. They have all their different respective opinions, views on life and band music, lyrics, whatsoever. So it's not like, you're repeating one interview after another, saying the same things and all. In my opinion, all these guys were great. So I have no reason to bitch about anything. And like I said, we were really taken care of in a nice ways. Meaning we got food, we got drinks, we had nice company, and everybody was just, cool. I don't know why I expected something else from Germany, because German people have always been really, really nice to us Finns. Anyway, so the similar thing was happening once again in Germany this time as well. So what can I say? To me, Acherontic Arts Festival 4 made a really big impression. Felt really nice to travel to such place, because it was first time for me, not only in Düsseldorf but also Oberhausen, obviously, and this kind of festival. And basically I didn't know anybody before I went there, but soon it was kind of obvious that, hey, we have some mutual friends, and then again, this and that guy I have been in touch with in emails or whatever. So yeah, what can I say is that do these kind of trips. When you have the money, when you have the time, when you have the passion, do it before it's too late. You will get older and you will have regrets. And why didn't I go there, this and that, and blah, blah, blah. So start saving your money for these trips. I know there are plenty of people who are very dedicated to traveling to these kind of events. And this just, in my opinion, shows that there's so much more than Finland, Norway, and places like Sweden with their festivals. I don't know if there are actually that much good festivals in Sweden, but probably are. So my point here is, once again, consider investing time and money for these kind of trips. They will be really, really memorable. And the good side for you is you most likely don't have to work like I have to, but even if it means for me saving money. Either way, if you have questions, obviously I'm more than happy to answer you what I can about this festival or traveling to Germany, what kind of things you really have to consider and all that stuff. But I don't know. I guess I pretty much covered everything here. And now we're rolling out these interviews as soon as possible. Hopefully starting next week with Hordem Rife and then going in more or less chronological order with the rest of the bands. So one interview per week coming out. And I hope you enjoy them. And like I said, once again, if you have comments or questions, let me know and I'll get back to you next time. We'll see you at Steelfest. Bye-bye.